that the local government level is part of the political structure. If they take the local government from you, it's like you've lost the political structure. And so see what is playing out in Edo State with the suspension, with what we hear about impeachment. I don't understand those impeachment processes and all of those. So I guess that's where he's coming from, as far as this is concerned.
Interesting days. There's still the tax. Just to fill you up on some of the things you missed. So we'll get you more updates on the show, but these are some of the things that we've been covering. It's Onyeka Abayomi now, no more Bodyland.
Okay, so you went to look for the name.
Just wanted to remember.
Yeah.
But what do we have for you on the show this morning? A few things that you'll be seeing for the first time on the Morning Brief today, but let's get right into the highlights. On the show this morning, we'll be focusing on how government can address Nigeria's pressing security challenges. Oh, yes. And we're hoping that this can be at least far-reaching, right? Not in the bits and pieces we see here and there. I'm talking about the conversation. So we're talking insurgency, banditry, and cyber threats. We're going deep down on this one. But that's not all. We're also going to be talking about women in business.
Apparently, Mondays we dedicated to all of the women doing great things. And one of those women will be joining us today as far as the creative space is concerned. We bring them up to speed or highlight their efforts in their small spaces as they are shattering the glass ceiling. So Mondays dedicated to women. January the 6th is not excluded.
Yes, and we'll be talking education. In terms of literary work, I think this is a year that a lot of people need to do some more reading. So we'll be having a chat with talented writer Alison highlighting his literary works, academic achievements, and his ability to connect with readers. You will read that book this year.
You shall read the book. So this is our second bookie, if we call it that way. And we'll also explore this very great guy in Nollywood, a production designer, Tunji Afolayan, will be joining us at some point of the program. Let's talk about production design. You know, we say a lot of things, but production design is underrated. Yeah. But if you mix production design, which is the time and moment and the era these things are set in, just imagine that somebody's wearing an iPhone in 1952. That could be a disaster, you know what I'm saying? Or using an iPhone or in 1962.
You know, I've seen some of those
Apple Watch is what I wanted to say. Yes, in 1960s.
What?
Okay.
So there you go. By the way, this is from a very popular movie that you've seen, or series that you've seen, but we'll get right into it on the show this morning. I know some people know already. They already know what I'm talking about, particularly when you see those doors. But you know what? You could be a part of the show. #CTV Morning Brief. That's our hand of fellowship to you this morning, so you can be the third anchor right here on the show. #CTV Morning Brief, or just head over to WhatsApp and send your messages and comments. We got loads of Happy New Year messages, Jeffrey. It's beautiful to see. Thank you so much.
We appreciate
those kind thoughts and prayers. So be a part of the show. That is the number with which you can be a part. So we're introducing for the very first time on the Morning Brief newspaper review, and that's in a few seconds. We'll take you through all of the big stories on the front pages. So stay with us right here. It's the Morning Brief. You'd almost think we're playing a game of chess right here, but we're getting right into the front pages of the dailies this morning. What exactly are the dailies saying? Let us give it right to you. We're starting off with The Guardian. Yes, for the very first time on the Morning Brief, we're showing you what the front pages of the dailies are saying. So here you have The Guardian newspaper, leading with labor issues. Oh yes, fresh agitation trails state's poor execution of new minimum wage. I recall the labor leaders last week in their New Year messages, both by text and interview on Channels Television, said that, well, states need to adhere to the new Minimum Wage Act, We don't call it New Minimum Wage Act anymore, Jeffrey. This
It's a minimum wage act.
Exactly. This was all the way last year, but it looks like lots of states are still not adhering to it, even though the labor leader said across levels. So this is what you have, and then you see the images of the labor leaders and the sub-nationals as well. Fresh agitation trails states' poor execution of new minimum wage. If you want to know what the poor execution is about, then of course you might need to do a deeper dive. But you understand these things. Lots of states are not paying yet. Some have announced. Maybe we've not seen the implementation. You know these things, Jeffrey.
Well, sir, just below that, we have insurgencies, insecurity, end in 2025. CDS tells personnel. It's quite ambitious, quite bold. We don't know how this is going to come through, but just around there, the CDS Chief of Defense Staff talking to personnel on page 9 of The Guardian, just perhaps motivating them and setting targets that all issues of insecurity and insurgencies should end in 2025. So perhaps a brand new charge for the men of the armed forces in 2025. And just besides that, you can also see that terrorists killed Mia Tiala Chairman, 3 others in Katsina State. So you can see Kurde has...
Just side by side.
Just side by side. On one hand, you're talking about ending insurgency. On the other hand, terrorists are killing people. So that's one of the pages of the Guardian newspaper.
There you go. It is a lot. And that's why we're doing a deep dive for you on the show this morning, talking about security. Well, power makes its way to the front page as well. I know some people have not had power for a few days now, or maybe longer than expected. But you see the Minister of Power saying that discos pay 137, well, not the Minister of Power, I should say. The Minister of Power's picture is there. Where you see discos pay 137 billion naira to TCN amid persistent grid collapses.
So who is to blame on this one?
Good question, Jeffrey. And this is something that is almost like the oil sector, Jeffrey. The power sector and the oil sector, I think they account for the most headaches for Nigerians. So the power sector, you have...
energy sector.
Generally, right? Generally. You have the generating companies, right? Then you have a transmission and the distribution. So TCN says, well, give us power. Okay, we need power. And then the GENCO say, well, you don't have enough infrastructure. That's why we have the grid collapses to wield the power. Discos are saying that we don't have the infrastructure as well. That's why we need more money. We need you to pay more. They say cost reflective tariff. So you keep looking to the players in that value chain, and it looks like the blame game keeps going on. So I think this is what is yet again.
All right, just at the very bottom of that front page of the Guardian newspaper, we have 4 feared dead, property destroyed as petrol tanker explodes in Delta State. So we've been seeing some sort of a conflicting number. Some are saying 4, some are saying 2, some are saying 5. But the fact is that a lot of people, or some people, have died due to that explosion that occurred in Delta State. And we'll keep our eyes and ears on the development as far as that is concerned. But from what I read, I understand that a tanker laden with petroleum product was on high speed. And of course, this kid of losing control, and eventually that explosion happened, and we could see people's houses or people's businesses destroyed, and this has to be checked as much as possible. I do not know what else we have to do to check these vehicles. I don't even know whether the roadworthiness of these articulated vehicles are followed through to the letter. Because when we speak to some of the guys who are in authority as far as checking vehicles are concerned, some of these guys don't even show up to be checked. So who checks articulated vehicles to make sure that they are roadworthy? So if you see the smoke that comes out from these vehicles,
visibility is zero.
Just
once you're behind this vehicle,
kicks out visibility. But it's very sad. Our thoughts and our prayers are with the families of those who lost their lives. And
I really hope we take that roadworthiness serious for the articulated vehicles. I told you the MO of, I think it was the FRSC, trying to stone the truck just to stop. And the truck ended up hitting another car because it didn't want to stop, and then causing a bigger problem right there on the highway. So we need to rethink roadworthiness, definitely. But let's take a look at the back page of The Guardian. Hey, sports news for you. Yeah, well, the Super Eagles may not be in action, but you have the Chan Eagles in action, or about to be in action. And I should say that I'm not sure it's fair that a lot of people don't pay as much attention to the Chan Eagles. So this is a reminder.
Some people don't even know what Chan Eagles.
Right? Oh dear. So this is your reminder right now to pay attention, because all eyes on Chan Eagles as camp opens in Ikene. Chan, by the way, is the African Nations Championship. So it's sort of the Team B of the Super Eagles. And
based.
Exactly. So they have their competition coming up. 26 players of the Eagles Team B will commence preparation for the 8th Chan. So let's support our players. Eagles is Eagles, Jeffrey. Yes. Whether it's Chan or Team A.
So Nigeria and Nigerians dominate the very back page of that particular The Guardian newspaper. If just a moment that Adesanya adopts new training regime ahead of his UFC comeback. There was a time it was all about Nigeria, Israel Adesanya, and the other gentleman, Kamara, yeah. But at some point they started losing fights, but this comeback, let's hope it's come back for real. And that's the tricky thing about sports, eras and all of that. So we hope that this training regime is adopted. It's going to give him that real comeback, because if he gets knocked out again, I'm not a big fan of UFC because it's just like street fights, literally. But it's what it is. We have great guys from Nigeria doing big things, although some of them don't carry the Nigerian flag by nationality, but they still represent Nigeria one way or the other. Certainly. So good luck to them.
Kamaru Usman's been in Nigeria, and Ghana visited him. But hey, let's turn our attention now to the New Telegraph newspaper. What does the New Telegraph have for you today, January the 6th, 2025? There you have it. Let's begin with a big story. 2027. Northern Bloc plans to register with INEC. Yeah, I know you're still in 2025. You're still trying to, figure out the challenges of 2025, but politicians are already in 2027. So what will this look like? Well, the explainers under it said, heeds Gowan's counsel to seek South support for cohesion, inclusivity, says existing parties failed to address Nigeria's fundamental challenges. So at this point now, we have just close to 20 parties. If we get another party,
about 19, right?
Yeah, that will be 20 on the dot.
Well, for them, we understand that they are saying, if you see the byline says, existing parties fail to address Nigeria's fundamental challenges. Let's see what they have. But let's stay with the party issues. And this is attributed to the NWC of the PDP, saying PDP will produce more governors, take Aso Rock in 2027. Diri urges colleagues to strengthen party and save Nigeria. PDP has a lot of work to do as far as party cohesion and all of that. I've had conversation with PDP members, a series of conversations. They are still trying to put their acts together. Since the election of 2023, they've not been able to put their acts together. So it's pro this, pro that, interest wrangling, and they've not been able to hold their neck. So it's more like, some people are saying the reason the neck has not held is because they don't want to hold the neck afterwards. The party will collapse. They want to be ready before that neck goes on. And I was watching the luncheon by the Honorable Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, where I think the most brutal statement and most honest statement that was made on that stage came from Senator Magnus Habe. He said we all did anti-party activity in 2023. There was enough anti-party to go around.
So I was going to ask you, which of the PDP members to speak with? Is it the ones that belong to the PDAPC or the LPDP?
That complexity is common in Rivers State. It's a common situation. The situation in Rivers State is a very funny one. So I'm even thinking that maybe because we don't believe that. We don't see ideological politics in Nigeria among the political class. I think we should just take away this whole issue of defection. Let them just be defecting in peace. It's true. They don't.
In any case, it's almost one and the same party.
President Muhammadu Buhari and President Bola Tinubu. Economic ideologies.
Oh yes, there's even the Oshimbajo.
Yes.
It's so funny what happens in parties, right?
Within the same political
You have
party.
like 4 different ideologies. There's also
Different ideologies. One is pro-welfarist, the other is pro-capitalist. In the same party. Come on, guys. If we're not ready for this thing, let's just do it our way.
Nigeria is just a very interesting place. Blueprint is the next one. Blueprint. And the big story on the front page of the Blueprint, Jeffrey, is also about 2027. Kwankwaso to northern leaders, or elders this time around. Your choice of presidential candidates undermining democracy. Yeah. Yes, it's actually about 2027 eventually. Because, this candidate in 2023 definitely looks like he'll be a candidate in 2027. And you see, NEF urges further dialogue on tax reform bills, wants extensive engagement with critical stakeholders. And you see the picture of the president in Enugu over the weekend.
And he did promise, just to add to that visit, promised to complete the Eastern Rail Line. He said the $3 billion worth of what do you call it now? Infrastructure.
But when?
From page. Yeah, he didn't give.
Did you hear that loud?
He did not say when.
He didn't say. He said before his administration. So is either before 2027 or if he gets re-elected?
So they didn't catch the political nuance of the presidency. I always look for the political nuance of the president because he would just say it in passing and you don't notice it.
So give me your vote and I will deliver this to you.
From Port Harcourt all the way to Maiduguri, because I know there's some spots along that corridor. They also promised to support the Anambra Basin development, where that holds billions of barrels of either gas and all of that. But we also have that story yet again that has to do with 5 persons dying in Delta. As I said, the numbers here and there. That incident that occurred when that trailer that was carrying petroleum product lost control and exploded, killing people, destroying property in Delta State. Quite a sad one.
Definitely a sad one. And I really hope that we follow through with those things that were mentioned earlier on. I will take just one more for you. And you might miss this. In fact, there are 2 stories sort of linked. One is right at the top of the front page. NDLEA nabs ex-convict in Rivers, recovers 316,800 bottles of codeine. Looking at the NDLEA's report over the weekend, quite interesting nabs, as the NDLEA puts it. But you see in blue there, Saudi Arabia releases 3 Nigerians prosecuted for drug offense.
They come hand in hand, right?
Sort of.
It's a collabo.
At this rate. So there you have it. The Blueprint newspaper.
So those are the big ones we're tracking on some of the dailies that we've captured right here on the program. As far as what the newspapers are reporting, but you can see clearly that politics, we said it, we were even thinking that politics will shift a bit, but we said, it's going to start. The momentum is already building way stronger than we anticipated. That signals a lot of things. So in case you're not planning for anything, politicians are ahead of you. They're already planning on who will run against the president in 2027. The question is, will he run? I doubt if he won't. He can't wait for 30 years for one term. How old is he now? Okay.
Good question, Jeffrey. But you know what? We're right here to give you all of the happenings. And we're starting off with security. The CDS talking about insecurity, insurgency ending this year. And then you see the death recorded in Katsina. Some other events played out. So we're big on security this morning. And that's our first talking point right here on the Morning Brief. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the show. We're getting started with security. It's vital to the success of any society, security, whether you're talking economy, you're talking education, agriculture, all of that sort of rises and falls on the state of security. And this is a challenge we have talked about for so long on the show. So this morning, we're doing a deeper dive. We're joined by two gentlemen at this moment on the show. Lecturer, School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London, Dr. Afolayan, and Mr. Chetan Wanze, who's the founder of SBM Intelligence, research consultant, focus on West African politics and economy. Also joining us from London. Gentlemen, welcome to the Morning Brief. All right, I'll just get started with Mr. Wanze and just maybe get a sense of how far you think we have come, particularly for this administration of President Bola Tinubu, the collaboration or otherwise with state governments and, of course, the local councils as well. Is this cup half full for you or half empty, particularly with security? And this is for you, as I said, Mr. Wanze.
Good morning again. I think it's a case of cup half empty. If you look at the current state of national security, it's very important to state that we don't have any security challenge that the Nigerian state has resolved definitively in the past decade. Definitely in the past half decade. Instead, we have new security challenges that are coming up. More often than not, what we get is a spirited operation against the threats, and then a failure to sustain that campaign after the immediate threat has been removed or has been suppressed. I think suppressed is a better word. We don't look at root causes. We don't have we just firefight and move on. So for a lot of this, what this means is that the threat simply changes locations, taking advantage of one of the things that is really worrying within the Nigerian context, which is that we have a lot of ungoverned spaces. Take, for example, the Lakwara group. It's really... This group has made the headlines a lot last year, but this group has been around at least since 2017 and has simply changed locations. So that is the problem, where somewhere along the security chain of command, somewhere along the security line, something has broken in terms of communications, in terms of cooperation. There seems to be a lot of people operating in silos, and basically we have a lot of disagreements over stuff. That needs to change if we're to solve the security problems in the country.
Right. Let me go to Dr. Afolayan. I started with you, Cheta, because, well, SBM usually gives out security intel and all of those data regarding security, particularly in the West African sub-region. But Dr. Afolayan, you have, perhaps you bring in another view to this, but perhaps another international perspective on this, also big on the academic side of things. And I wonder for you, do you take, for example, the CDS saying that insurgency ends this year? If you look at that statement on face value, does it sound like the usual rhetoric, or it looks like something that is indeed possible, or something just to give people hope that we're working on it?
Thank you very much. Good morning once again. First of all, let me begin by saying that with insecurity, there's so many factors to consider. Right? In the case of Nigeria, most of the insurgency the country is currently being confronted with has its roots primarily around 4 key dimensions. The first would be to consider the political dimensions. The second would be the socio-economic dimensions. And then, of course, the third would be the environmental-related dimensions. And then the fourth, you have the ethnic/religious dimensions. So if we go to the political dimensions, the issues which are around underlying root causes of the political dimensions have to do with issues bordering on weak institutions, poor governance, issues of marginalization, and on and on and on. And then for the socioeconomic dimensions, you want to consider things like poverty, inequality, unemployment, lack of jobs. It's just one of the things that drive people, to pick up arms against the state in the first instance. And then you have, again, the environmental dimensions. When you think about climate change and the impact it's having on conflicts, scarce resources, when you think of the farmer-header crisis, and how some of these things have driven the conflict we've seen in parts of the country. Again, you can see also that there's another dimension to this. And then, of course, last but not least is the religious dimensions and the ethnic dimensions also referred to. These are some of the things that have been in existence historically in certain parts of the country, which have led to communal clashes. So just to summarize, when you say that insecurity would come to an end this year, or rather insurgency would come to an end, you have to consider all these other factors and to see what measures have been put in place, to curtail these factors so that you don't have a repeat of the circle all over again. So as long as these things haven't been squarely addressed, these underlying risk factors that push people, into insurgencies, all right, then assuming that insurgency would come to an end this year might be, a far call. All right, but that's not to say that it cannot be abated, it cannot be reduced. In fact, data and evidence has shown that insecurity has significantly, security situation has significantly improved as a result of some of the recent gains the military has made. Especially in the areas of the northwest and of course in the northeastern region. So yes, most of the time we hear about issues of insurgency, kidnappings, and all these things. But that's also not to displace the important contributions the military has played, in helping to address some of these issues. But my point is, there is no one-size-fits-all approach. You cannot address insecurity simply by using overly military tactics, kinetic approaches. What will happen then is that you have the insurgencies begin to evolve, all right, and they will drag on. So what's most important is to address counterinsurgency using non-kinetic approaches, going back to those earlier things I mentioned, addressing those underlying root causes, at the same time integrating military solutions to them, all right? That's the way to address insecurity, as against an overly militaristic approach.
All right. So let's bring in Professor Khalifa Dikwa is a social commentator, public affairs analyst. Khalifa Dikwa joining us via Zoom from Kaduna. Prof, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prof, for coming on the program.
Yes, thank you.
We're doing an assessment of the security situation of the country. And maybe you will help us paint your own picture of what the security situation has been in terms of gains and challenges. We see the CDS is making very bold and ambitious statement. If you see the dailies today saying that terrorism and insurgency will end or should...
Electricity is the most important aspect.
Just hold on, Prof. Just hold on, Prof. Just a moment, Prof. Let me just land on my thoughts so they can take it all together. So the CDS has talked about the fact that, look, all of this should end, talking to his men in 2025. It's an ambitious statement. So maybe give us your perspective and what you see from where you sit and what the possibilities are. Then we'll go to the nitty-gritty, Prof.
My honor, that as long as the food soldiers, yes, Geoffrey, as long as they do not sit on the tail of the devil that has been blocking for Nigeria from getting its basic infrastructure, it will continue to be just tomorrow, next year, and so on. We've been talking about global, what do you call them, goal, whatever it is, and we're not getting it there. Enough of promises. We need something concrete on this. Nigerians are fed up. Nigeria is a great country that shouldn't be toyed with. In terms of, because we know that there are countries that are not interested in having Nigeria to lead the continent, having had peace in Liberia, Sierra Leone. They were envious of Nigeria. And therefore, it is up to Nigerian leadership, the actors, to step up, to stamp their feet and say, enough of this, we have to fix our country. And therefore, Nigeria has abdicated its leadership role for over 10 years now. Since the Buhari, 8 years of Buhari was dormant, empty, nothing. Completely, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was not working at all. And today, again, this Tinubu government is not doing better, apart from just doing things that annoy our people. Nigeria is the leader of this continent. The entire continent is looking up to Nigeria for leadership. So, for goodness sake, let us have it for all. Security and energy. We don't allow anybody, any financial institution from anywhere in the world to dictate to us. Nigerians are capable people. They have been helping the economies of other countries. Why not our own?
So, Prof, just a moment, Prof. Just a moment, Prof. By the way, Prof is joining us via phone. Prof, are you saying that energy security is the biggest challenge we have in terms of that leads to insecurity. I want to understand what you're saying.
Yes, by energy, I say energy for electricity, energy even for communication, and then energy to get water, all the things that we have in terms of transportation and security, physical security that we have them now with different names. The media gives them different names to make them big, and it has already become an industry of itself, Geoffrey.
Okay, Prof, let's take it to the other guest. Mr. Nwanze, let's bring it to you. You heard what Prof says, I guess. In your own definition of success in terms of improving the state of Nigeria's security, what will be your definition of success?
My definition of success will be bringing down the absolute numbers. I think it's a bit of a travesty in each of the previous 4 quarters, and one of the things that my organization does is track numbers, especially via media reports. In each of the previous 4 quarters, the numbers for people killed via all sorts of security incidents in the country, 2,308, 2,371, 2,971, and 1,859 respectively. I think it's important to put that in perspective, because the academic definition of war indicates people who are killed in violent basically violent incidents involving 2 armed groups, when you have over 1,000 people within a calendar year. So these numbers already this is approaching 10,000 already. So that would indicate that there's a sort of war situation. And this is borne by the fact that the Nigerian army is deployed in all 36 states on some sort of combat operation or the other. These are things that in a normal environment, it should be the police doing it. We need to change that paradigm. And I think that the key thing that is missing from a lot of the conversation, what is driving this, is access to justice. There are so many groups in Nigeria, within the borders of Nigeria, who feel that they have been unjustly treated, and as a result have taken up one form of arm or the other against the states. We should be asking ourselves, why is this so? And what can be done to make everybody trust the Nigerian state once again? That trust has been broken, and it's been broken for a long time. It predates this administration, it predates the previous administration, it predates even that previous administration. People have been taking up arms against the Nigerian state in large numbers, at least since 2003.
Right.
What can be done to bring this to an end? And until we have these honest and, I must admit, painful conversations, especially on the sectarian bits, the ethnic and religious, because there's a lot of sense of grievance and injustice within the country. We need to sort that. We need to sort that urgently.
Well, Cheta, let me quickly come in here and get your that data correct. Comparatively now, when you say 10,000, does that mean it has gotten better or worse? Maybe give us that data in context.
It's gotten worse. So compared to 2023, it got slightly worse, and slightly worse also from 2022. We publish these figures quarterly. So I think it's important to point out that the figures that I read out are for Q4 2023, Q1 2024, Q2 2024, and Q3 2024. So in Q3 2024, at 1,859 media reported deaths, I must say, which usually are an undercount, it went down significantly. That was the best quarter. Q3 2023 was the best quarter in the Q3 2024 was the best quarter in the previous 4. However, if you look at it in terms of the 4 quarters combined, the 4 quarters that I just read out were worse than the 4 quarters preceding, which in turn were worse than the 4 quarters preceding.
So do you disagree with Dr. Aino when he says that the security situation has improved then?
I disagree. We track kidnappings, we track media reports. One of the things that I think has become very dangerous is the fact that many of these things have become people have just gotten used to them. For example, the Punch yesterday had a huge story about kidnaps. This is something that we track very diligently, and it just shows a spread. The kidnap industry in Nigeria has become very democratized. That is something that we need to have a painful conversation about how to stop. And I think it goes back to, aside from access to justice, economics. We have a huge unemployment problem, especially with youth unemployment, and this is making criminal activities very attractive to people.
Interesting. So, Dr. Aino, naturally, I want to get your thoughts on this. So he's speaking to the figures now. So when you say it has improved, I imagine you say the glass half full. In what sense do you say? Because it says data says otherwise.
So if you recall, my comment, I had mentioned that in recent times, and he also just confirmed that, okay, with the last figures, which have dropped to about 1,000 plus thereabout. So you can see from the previous quarters, okay, there has been an improvement, okay, up to less than 2,000, which is over just about 1,000 plus. So the question then is what might be responsible, okay, for this slight improvement we have seen, even if it's a decline by 10, by 20, that in itself is still an improvement, all right? What we should be more focused on is what we can do to consolidate on the improvements that have been made. And if you look at the Northwest, for instance, you will see that in recent times, the military has stepped up, okay, its campaigns against the head of banditry groups. There have been several decapitations of the leadership of some banditry groups, okay, which has also led to some improvements in that area, in that region in particular. There's also been significant air campaigns, okay, successes on air campaigns conducted by the Nigerian Air Force, okay, which in many ways have also, helps to improve the situation on the ground. But when you look at security holistically, all right, that you may be getting certain results in one aspect also, and you're not getting results in other aspects, does not mean that put together, okay, there isn't, an improvement. All right. Also, something to focus on is to think about, the improvements in terms of addressing some of the socio-economic concerns you could have led to these issues in the first instance. Let's not forget that Nigeria as a country hasn't conducted, a census in a very long time. The last time a census was conducted was in 2006. So we have higher numbers, okay, more people, okay, who are in the Nigerian economy right now than before. All right. So if, for instance, some people who were naturally susceptible to insecurity, okay, are less so now, you may not be able to see that number tangentially because you have an increase in the population right now, okay? So there's some regions in the country that, yes, are still being confronted with insecurity, but at the same time, there are some others that have received relief, okay, from the insecurity situation in the country. And I'll give you another example. A couple of years back, there were some territories, especially in Borno State, that were under the control and command of Boko Haram, some local government areas. And these territories were eventually reclaimed by the military, okay, which brought about succor and relief to the inhabitants of these regions. Now, we wouldn't say, for instance, that we haven't received, that didn't amount to any form of improvements in security. That has definitely amounted to improvements in security, all right? But put together, while the numbers may be not as much as we would have expected them to be, I would say definitely that we are making some progress, and this progress needs to be consolidated upon.
All right, Mr. Aino, let's take it to Prof. Prof, one of the angles I would like you to speak to in tackling the insecurity or the security challenges of our country, especially the North, has to do with military-civilian relationship and how we can improve on it, because I'm talking based on what happened in Sokoto. When that bombing occurred or when that operation was carried out, and Lakarawa insurgents or terrorists were killed, there was a back and forth between the government and the military. The military has said, look, if you accommodate terrorists, then it could be a collateral damage. The government came out to say, look, these are innocent villagers. And then there was clarity later when the General Buba came out to say that it was secondary explosion, that their target was on Lakarawa and their cache, so the cache explosion led to the death of civilians. It was that was also a subject of argument here and there. So how do we improve on civilian-military relations? Because even the military acknowledges the fact that they can't do it alone.
Absolutely. Geoffrey, the military now, they are tired, They are tired of the endless thing that they don't see. And the CDS knows himself that he was the theater commander over there in Maiduguri. We had our own relation with the civilian JTF, where parents will not allow anybody to have a gun or anything. parents were reporting them, and that even only in the rural areas where the bandits and so on, the insurgents were taking villagers at gunpoint to sell them certain things and so on. We told them, the military then, that the villagers have no choice than to follow them. The way it is happening in Sokoto, look, security is security, like a human body. What affects the fingernail will affect the entire nation. We shouldn't be talking about south, north, and so on. Security is security, but it has to end. And that technology is the best way to do it. We can have the drones and so on. Why is it we are going for back and forth? As if the different agencies, the Air Force, the Army, and so on, from time to time are showing, are playing gymnastics in the eyes of the world when we are losing sacred lives in our people. One life loss is very important. Talk less of having 30, 40 in Sokoto, in eastern Sokoto, wherever. It is not the same as in Borno at that time. At that time, we had the full cooperation. The civilians cooperated with the military, and the military was open to us. From time to time, I was even invited there to give me a lecture on the certain conspiracies of foreign countries about how they plant insurgencies in the mineral-rich countries, and they continued all over. In Africa, wherever you have insurgency, check. Whether it is Congo, Liberia, Sierra Leone, it is about the resources. Why is it that we cannot sit down and say, perhaps write a petition, even the European Union or United Nations, that look, there are certain countries that we cannot challenge. We can see their planes, those things are coming, they are landing and taking things, and sometimes they even bring mercenaries. They kill at large, and then the following day they will say either Boko Haram or Lakurawa. These are names concocted in order to distract people. Why should we even give them name in order to make them important? Our military used to be one of the three most applauded military in the continent. Why is it not now capable to do it within the house? At least I guess the challenge that the political actors, the same. Some of them, I would say all of them, some of them are also playing into it because it has money that cannot be accounted for. A lot of money that will come out, and then some of them will share. The same thing with foreign financial institutions where they force our countries to take loans just for sharing. And the 40% that arrives the country is not in terms of cash, in terms of material, where the countries have no choice. Each time they ask you to do one reform or the other, you do it, and then there will come another one. Imagine next time you will also hear about retrenchment, and that kind of thing annoys the youth. When the youth are annoyed, they are likely to sit down and start discussing. They are likely to get addicted to drugs, and they are likely to go into any violent crime. This is the kind of thing that they keep annoying people. I said it on channels. Everybody, the entire world said, 3 days after the withdrawal, the sudden withdrawal of the subsidy, without putting in place the basic infrastructure like what we call them refinery and so on, how to transport and so on. It was sudden, and I knew, and I said it that this will never happen. And in a democracy, it is the choice of the people that matters, not the choice of the leaders. Even if the leaders are 100% sure that their own is good, but they have to listen to the people who voted for them. And therefore, they will never stop. They will never stop asking for more reforms that will annoy the people of this country. It is up to all politicians and academics and so on. And it is high time we start jotting down the names of voodoo economists who are in the media all over, justifying one thing or the other, that tomorrow will be good. We've been waiting for that tomorrow for many years. It has not happened.
All right, Prof. I can see when you make your comment, I see you draw those nexus, and it's quite important just to tell you that insecurity doesn't just happen. Things trigger it. Let me take it to Mr. Nwanze. And Mr. Aina, Mr. Nwanze, both of you will take this in turns, but let's start with Mr. Nwanze. Let's talk about part of what Prof has mentioned, what I consider the economics of insecurity, both by institutional and non-institutional elements. 2.2 trillion from May 2023 to April 2024 was reported to have been paid as ransom. How does that strike you?
That was an MBS report that was published last month. My organization has been publishing such data on that for 4 years now. We update it annually, and the one thing that I will point out is that so in our report we always put the caveat that our data is incomplete because the most kidnap victims, or many kidnap victims, do not disclose figures. One thing, unfortunately, the police especially are not usually very honest about whether ransoms are paid. So I will say off the bat that the MBS is in a better position because they are the legally statutory body that can see a lot of these cash flows. So I wasn't surprised that their figures were a lot higher than what we have published. But the key thing for me is that every year since we started publishing the report, The Economics of Nigeria's Kidnapping Industry, the figures paid out in ransoms have gone up. And then the NBS basically essentially validated what we were saying by publishing figures that are way higher than what we published in our last report by a factor of 10. I think that's very important to note. More and more people, again, is the language very, very important. Kidnapping has become an industry in Nigeria for the simple reason that we have a huge unemployment problem that we haven't taken care of. And in parallel with that, or in tandem with that, we have a huge problem of, like I used that expression before, I'm using it again, lack of access to justice. A lot of people who get involved in a lot of these crimes get away with it. And as a result of the fact that they do get away with it, it's becoming more and more attractive to more people, ergo more insecurity. So we can't pretend that this thing is not a huge problem. It's getting worse. And like with many things, there's a flow and ebb. There's a reason that things may have in Q3 of last year, that things may have come down in terms of number of people killed, but the same data shows us that there were more incidents in Q3 than in Q2. So more incidents, fewer people killed. That's a good thing. More incidents is not a good thing. I think it's important to point that out. Again, more incidents is not a good thing. Fewer people killed is a good thing. But if you want to be cynical, you could say that the kidnappers, because a good majority of the violent crime in Nigeria now is related to kidnapping. So if you want to be cynical, you could say that the kidnappers are getting more efficient. That is not a good thing.
All right, let's take it to Mr. Aino. The same question, Mr. Aino, that I asked Mr. Nwanze.
Thank you very much. Let me quickly just pick up from the last thing Mr. Nwanze mentioned. So again, if you have more incidents, it will also be a pointer to the fact that the perpetrators of these crimes are only becoming more desperate, all right? And also the fact, as you've already alluded, that we're having lesser fatalities also could be a pointer to the fact that, again, insecurity has slightly improved, because it means that the security agencies are doing something a lot better, okay, than they were before, which has in some ways accounted for why we're seeing lesser fatalities. Now, to go back to the question around the economics of insecurity, yes, there's a significant economic dimension to all of this. Let's be reminded also that organized crime is not only funded by kidnappings for ransom. There are also other means of funding. Also, there's fundings that come from taxation. Okay, so for instance, Boko Haram, okay, in some areas where they have operated in the past, are known to have exploited inhabitants by collecting some forms of taxation. Okay, there's also another new dimension which hasn't received so much attention in the media. It has to do with the use of cryptocurrency, okay, by terrorist organizations all across the world, to finance organized crime. Also, in some instances, there's external funding, okay, from broader organizations. So, for instance, ISWAP, which is affiliated to ISIS Core, has received financial support also from ISIS Core. Okay, so again, huge dimension to financing of organized crime activities. I think what's most important to focus attention on is curbing, illicit financial inflow. Okay, that has given insurgent groups or terrorist organizations, the fuel that they require to perpetuate their crimes. Okay, and this can be done through monitoring and tightening some of these loopholes, okay, that have been identified. I know the NFIU is doing a significant job in this regards. Okay, the Office of National Security Advisor as well is doing a lot of work in this regards. Yes, again, as I mentioned earlier, there's a need for more consolidation. Okay, and I think it's also important that where progress has been made, we recognize this progress. Okay, and we, give our security agencies the encouragement and the support that they require, because these are people who are making significant efforts daily, not discounting the fact that insecurity may still continue, yes, but also a lot of work has been done also in plugging some of these loopholes and in preventing access to funding that drives the activities of these terrorist organizations. This needs to be consolidated for more. And, effort in this regard also needs to be encouraged and supported.
Right. It's quite interesting, this conversation, how data is there, but there's still different inferences to that data. Quite interesting. But one thing is clear, this conversation is geared towards resolving the insecurity we've seen. So 2 quick points as we wind down. And Dr. Aina, quickly, I want to get your thoughts on this. A lot of people saw the IGP coming off a private jet over the weekend. And they started raising questions. Why does the IGP have a private jet, or why does the police force have a private jet when we have police vans that say they don't have petrol, or, the police stations that say they don't have, the basic infrastructure? So is that something that you also found interesting? Again, I should say it belongs to the MPF. We've seen previous IGPs fly this, but is it right for you, particularly in the face of funding?
I think it's very important also to stress here, that having a private jet, shouldn't be as much an issue of focus right now. The most important thing we should be thinking about is how the police or the security agencies are allocating resources to tackling insecurity. All right. If it's something that was just bought a day before he had to appear at that occasion, that may raise red flags. All we know, that jet must have existed long before he came into office. Okay, so we should be very careful to put things into perspective and not focus on less important things as such. Okay, what's most important is to hold the police accountable. Okay, and how it has allocated resources from the budget it has presented. Okay.
As I said, the jets, we've seen previous IGPs fly that same private jet, but this is specific to funding for the police. You know how much it costs to service a private jet. And for those people who raised eyebrows, said, it would be great to channel those funds to fund or to fuel operational vehicles. But clearly, this is a debate that is still ongoing. So let me come to Prof now. Prof, as we begin to wind down, you raised some vital issues that are not security related, but they are linked to security. And I know they always say that the North is not homogeneous anymore. So it's always tricky to say, what does the North think about this, or this is the North's position. But from where you sit, from the conversations you've had, do you think your section of the North is happy with the way President Tinubu is handling security? And by extension, how the governors are also chiming in on security, Prof?
Actually, it is the governors who have been doing better, because right from the times of President Buhari, the way the governors, particularly the governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum, had been handling it. Today, the people were able even to farm, and now they are back. The IDPs have been closed and so on. In the other parts of the world, IDPs were never closed down. And let me say this, the other time I was with you, I said this is perhaps for another day, that this insurgency, insecurity as well, had been in the cooler. 1984, when I was a student in Paris, there I saw it. They were waiting for an opportunity to launch in order to pull down Nigeria, to humiliate Nigeria, and eventually it was somebody we knew as a leader who opened the flood gate to humiliate our armed forces at that time. Even the weapons were moved from the north down to south and Lagos, and some of them exploded and killed scores. The enemies are within the nation, and therefore the constitution itself remove the powers of the local people, not only local government areas that we have now got, thankfully, from President Tinubu, but the traditional system that had anybody knew somebody, the traditional right from the word. People who are strangers, who were playing funny and so on, were even nipped in the bud. And this is not the same situation today. Why is it that we cannot fix our own country? Nigeria is a great country. We cannot afford to go into to be refugees in other nations.
Right.
Imagine this kind of a thing that had visa. Was it not the same agreement that was signed in Kigali? Not to have visas and so on for the entire continent to trade within. It is now cheaper to trade with outsiders outside the continent rather than coming through some brothers. Are we not the same blood in Africa that we were split in 1884 by the Oyibo people at the Berlin Conference? We have to know our history now, Coyote. The thing is, politicians have not been able to bring together the academics, those who know things, in order to show them. To them, it is the permanent interest. It is about making money. Making money is not enough because today we can blacklist them, and then the real people, the wise politicians, think of the next generation. But the bad politicians will always think of the next election.
Prof, that is why we have brought... Prof, that is why we have brought you and other academics on the show to give us a benefit of that, would I say, intelligence, insight, experience. But we'll have to thank you so much. And it's good to, well, hear you and see you again, Professor Khalifa Dikwa, social commentator, public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your time. And let me just say Happy New Year to you, sir.
Happy New Year to you. You have grown taller and fatter,
Thank you so much, Prof. I will also be speaking with Dr. Afolayan, lecturer, School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. Thank you for those perspectives, Dr. Afolayan, and putting some of those things in context, as well as Chetan Wadze, founder, SBM Intelligence, research consultant, focused on West African politics and economy. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. I will certainly be having this conversation in the coming weeks, but wish you the very best, and Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everyone. We'll take a moment now on the show. When we return, we'll speak to two amazing ladies. Their stories will definitely inspire you. So stay with us right here. Till the morning brief.
Welcome back. Mondays, we celebrate women and the things they are doing in their small spaces to ensure that they advance the cause of enterprise and the women causes generally. So we have joining us today on the program two lovely ladies. Fashion model, was model for Hues and Shades, Elizabeth Okokon, known by the stage name Ilox, right? Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the program. Thank you. We also have joining us interior designer, design facilitator, and creative director, 18th Interiors and 18th Mistletoe, co-founder and lead facilitator at Globe Design School, Abimbola Oyesonya. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Thank you for having me. So let me start with you, the model herself. With you or with you? With you, right here. You know, it's just like in the gym. If you go to the gym, for instance, when you do little exercises, the small exercises, because for men like us, we like to lift heavy weights. And so we feel like, man, this is the biggest work you could do. But these little things they do in the gym, squat and all of that, they now know that heavy weight you're lifting may be a joke at the end of the day. I said that to bring to the fore how interesting and challenging at the same time is being a model. Because we just see you strut on the runway and we say, we can do this. Is it that easy? Well, there are several challenges in the industry, but I would like to talk about only two. Right. The
the competition and the rejection in the industry, which is really difficult to digest when you have low self-esteem. In my early career, I faced this and I had self-doubts. But along the line, with God's help, I'm still here. And I realized that no, it's to give you room for more improvements, and it will give you room for more yes and better gigs. So yeah, I see challenges now as a stepping stone.
So what does it take to be a model? Maybe let's start from the back. How did you get into this space? I'm going to come to you in a moment. How did you get into this space as a model? You must be tall, yes. You must be this, you must be that. There are so many must. So maybe you walk us through all of that, because young girls are watching who may be interested, and the different types, I understand there are different types of modeling as well.
Yes, there are. So you do your research on which field that you, or branch that you are interested in, know what's you're required for that field. Just like for runway, the standard is you have to be fit, you have to be size 6, you have to be confident.
Size 6?
Well, yes, size 6. But now they're trying to if you could walk well, if you're confident in yourself, because they look more for the confidence. They don't want anyone just walking on the runway looking all sluggish. They want you all confident in yourself, walking like a queen. So yes, you have to be confident in yourself. You have to be upright, head straight. You have to be, you have to give your best, because a lot of people are watching you, because you are rocking a brand and you don't want to make that brand look less, because you're bringing the best of that brand. So yes.
Apparently, more like sounding like the ladies are like the billboards of these designers at the end of the day. We're going to talk about the money in a moment. Let me come to you. As I was introducing you, I saw a lot of 18th interiors, 18th this, 18th that.
Yeah, so it's like,
I know your interior. Let's begin with the name. What's up with that name, 18th?
So it's my mother's birth date.
Oh.
And I lost her when I was quite young, so it was just my way of keeping her memory alive.
Oh. Sorry about that. So you immortalizing your mom?
Yes.
Interior design. Why is it? It's almost more expensive to decorate and put those things in your house than even build a house.
Because I think finishing makes up the home.
Okay.
Really. And interior design is a luxury service, because it's very easy for me to build. And then when I have my money, I go to the market, I buy my curtains today. Tomorrow I have money, I go and buy my clock or whatever. But when you're employing someone to help you do all of that, it's like a total package, and you're putting everything together to have a look that looks well thought out, you know. And then we have different styles in interior design. It's very easy for the regular person to go to the market, you buy something because it's on sales, and you like it, and then you buy it. Maybe it's a contemporary style. You go another day, you see something else, it's a Victorian style. By the time you put everything together, you don't have that wholesome look, you know. But when you engage someone to do it for you professionally, you're able to have a curated space.
Amazing. I saw the price of curtain. My wife brought one down. Like, no, this cannot be the will of God.
Curtains are on another level.
And it's beautiful to hear that. Now, the point of this conversation is, too many times we talk about the economy, right? But you make up the economy. You operate in a sector, you operate in another sector, and you have, maybe because of grit, the drive, the Nigerian drive, entrepreneurial skill, you'll be able to come here. But that doesn't mean that there isn't work for government, the policymakers, to do, so that, I mean, your work can be easier, you can get more value, employ more people, and then the economy is better for it. So I'll stay with you for a moment and talk about how lucrative and challenging. We'll talk about how lucrative, I think that is clear, but also how challenging that sector is when it comes to policy, regulation, and the rest, because I hope that 2025 is a year that we're able to make things better for entrepreneurs.
Okay, so I think one of the major things would be in terms of skilled labor. In Nigeria especially, we don't have regularized skilled labor. So it's very easy for anybody to just pick up a skill and say, oh, I've learned this thing for 3 months. I'm now an expert in this thing. There's no, and then, so there's a lot of that to deal with, especially when you have to deal with artisans that are not properly schooled and all of that. And those are the bulk of the people we work with. But fortunately now I see a lot of educated people that are going into some of this industry. You find university graduates that have furniture stores. You find university graduates that are doing plumbing and a lot of other things like that. So that's bringing a new dynamics to it. But again, in terms of the government, I mean, there are policies that the government would make that you would have absolutely no control over. Now, for instance, foreign exchange has impacted a lot of things. You go to the market today, something is 50K. In another 2 days, they're telling you it's 65K. And maybe you've given a client an invoice 2 days before, and you have to struggle with all of those dynamics. It's just the reality of the times we live in, but we try to navigate it best as we can.
That's brilliant. And you just made a very important point. A lot of people focus on going to school to study the big courses in quote. Yeah. But I've seen architects who now build furniture, and it makes sense, right? Yes. If you're able to draw the lines, the curves, absolutely, you can bring that into furniture making. And absolutely, I think this is just a wake-up call, particularly for educationists, government. TVET is a big deal. That's technical and vocational education and training. Yeah. So you can have people who are intelligent building furniture, in fashion and the rest. I think we have that already. But I'll come to you now, it's quite interesting how you operate. You seem to operate in different fields, but there's still a lot of, similarities in the field you operate. So I'll also come to you and talk about how we're able to replicate easily. You find the average Nigerian model naturally wants to work for brands out there, which makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. But then people ask, for how long? How well are we able to replicate those successes back home as well? So I don't know if that's something you also look at and say, I wish we had modeling gigs that can pay, I don't know what the biggest amount you've gotten is, but happen right here in Nigeria. Is that something that worries you, and is that something that you think is possible?
It's very possible. It's very possible. It's something that is very possible, to be honest. Our sector, like the fashion industry, could do better here in Nigeria. They were trying, but we'll get there. We will get there. Because I won't say that they don't really treat us well in financial side, but they are trying. We'll get there, to be honest. The highest I've gotten is in thousands, but we'll get to the millions. We'll get there. We'll get there.
That's thousands of dollars, right?
It sounded like you're holding back. I know you are trying to, manage your information, but it's okay to speak out as much as you can speak out, because it's also labor, it's also service you're providing. So that if there are people exploiting this space, of course there are people who are always exploiting this space. So 2 questions in one. Okay. How much of exploitation is going on? And the issue of, I'm trying to use this very civil word on TV. I think in movies we call it casting couch. Casting couch are basically directors asking girls or men now. Because now we have men asking men to sleep with men. You have a child, and your child is now, your boy's child is following a girl, and you're excited at least he's following a girl. Yeah, so we'll get there someday. So issues around casting couch, I want you to address it. And issues around exploitation, because you are a player in that space. Tomorrow, maybe you own your own modeling company and all of that. These are the things you have to address.
Casting, most of our models pass through casting. It's like a beginning stage for a model to pass through, where you get to walk down the aisle and showcase yourself and you'll be asked questions. You need to know your statistics about your body, and it's kind of like a difficult platform, because if you have low self-esteem and you walk down and they tell you a no, it's kind of like, I'm not good enough, I'm not
pretty enough.
Yes, which is kind of, and most times they don't even tell you, they just say next. Which could be like, wait, what? There's a time that I went for a casting, And I passed through the first stage, the second stage. To the third stage, they dropped me, and I waited till the end to just hear, asked why. And she was like, I don't know. I was like, okay.
Well, it's not a culture you have to say why. Just we'll talk to you later. It's a Nigerian thing. I don't know why it's like that. But abroad, even if you apply for a job, they'll at least tell you something.
At least let me know my fault so I could at least work on it. But you are not helping me.
So the issue around is issues because there are a lot of pretty girls all over the place.
A lot
of pretty girls. So it's about pretty. There's a flurry of them. So I'm asking how much of demand for sex happens.
Oh, sex. I'm grateful to God that I've never experienced that to get a job. I'm not a desperate type of model that, oh, I must get this at all costs. I'm always grateful that God has always guided me to that space that, oh, when they say no, I'll go to my corner and work on myself. So the next time I go, they won't tell me a no. So yeah, see where I am right now. And I'm grateful for that. So no, I haven't faced that, so I won't be able to talk about it.
And I think that's some sort of encouragement to people who think that's the only route to
Believe
success in your field. Certainly not, at least judging from your own experience. Maybe not the same question, right? And this is about ensuring that at least what you do is sustainable, right? Jeffrey talked about how pricey it can be. So this is some sort of irony. We keep saying Nigeria is a poor nation. Jeffrey knows where I'm going, right?
I really don't. I don't agree with that statement.
I don't.
Thank you very much. Okay, don't let me say thank you. Jeffrey will come for me. So we say Nigeria is really poor, but then during December, you go out in Lagos and other parts of the country, you're like, wow, poor people spend a lot of money,
exactly,
right? So is that something you've also experienced? And have you had to say, let me review my prices? Because I imagine that the average Nigerian will say, this is not for me. Let me just keep my house the way it is. So first, do you agree that Nigeria is a poor nation? And you can take it off.
I absolutely do not think Nigeria is a poor nation. I mean, I think last year,
you don't think so, too?
I don't think so.
I think last year I had like practically all my friends go for vacation, and I was like, there's no money, exchange rates, people are still going on vacation. Right? You know, so I think it's also what you make your own reality, right? I offer a luxury service. I can't be in that space where I'm thinking we're managing because I'm creating luxury for people. And in reality, we've had to take a bit of maybe profit cut. You've also had to, and I think everyone does this right now, you've had to look at product and materials, and you're able to like, okay, do I have to use this? Maybe I could substitute it with this to deal with the reality of the times. But it's a luxury service. People that want it would always want it, and there are those people in this country.
So I think what this says, Jeffrey, is that the rich seem to be getting richer. Apparently. And the wealth is not being shared around.
You know, you've come to the point where we're talking about. So that is the economics of it.
Because it looks like, because you offer a luxury service, you deal more with the rich. I don't know if you offer for the middle class as well. There should be something for the middle class.
There's something for everyone. But again, as I said, the reality of it is, and I have to be very sincere with this because I also train people as well. The reality of it is, it's a luxury service. As I said from the initial start, you can go into the market. Nobody's holding a gun to you that you have to set up your own at a particular time and do it at your own pace and go in there and find whatever it is you want. But if you're engaging someone, then you're willing to go all out to do the things that need to be done. So that's just what it is.
Interesting. So the question we always ask is, where did they see this money? Right? That's a general notion. So let me stay with you before I come to on this particular one. So in your view, has the industry scaled as much as it should scale? And are we representing the artistry as we should? Because you, technically you're an artist, you're creating spaces within homes. Because we're talking about economics here. You are part of the ecosystem, as I said. Whatever you're doing, as long as there's a transaction, you're part of the GDP. And so we must look at you in that broad sense, even from the micro level. The scaling, how much of it? And is it an industry how much do you need to come into the industry, or you just need an expertise?
So you're able to start with, you don't need a huge sum to come into the market because again, it's a service. you're offering.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're looking for capital to buy things to start off. I mean, eventually you could get to maybe owning a physical space to sell things, but all you need is the training at first. And that is a mistake a lot of people make. There's actually specific trainings for interior design, and then people that don't have training in interior design, but they're able to do stuff that would still look good. We call them interior decorators. But when you've gone to school and gotten proper training in it, it's interior design. So if you're able to invest in that training, and it could be quite expensive, there are schools in Nigeria that offer it as well. If you're able to invest in the training and then prepare yourself, maybe start off with friends and family. Oh, I'm able to do this. Can I help you with this? And then you're building your portfolio little by little. You could start with creating mood boards that you can show people, just to be able to give visuals to those ideas that you have in your head. So it's not like you need huge capital to start, but it's good to start with investing in the proper trainings.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about the person who is starting quite young and maybe not so much money, is not driving a big car. Your approach, and this bill is about 1.5 billion, 3 billion.
So again, something we deal with in this industry is how people perceive you. And I remember one of the first trainings I did somewhere in Sierra Leone, and the woman would say to me that when she just started, unfortunately, there were no Ubers then. Now you could even get in an Uber and go to see a client, because you have people that they would look at you and size you up and like, I can't trust this person with 5 million naira, for instance.
Just run with my money. Right?
Exactly. You don't look like someone that's handled 1 million, so why would I want to give you? And that is an impression you have to create in this. She would say to me that she has one special bag that she bought just to visit clients. She doesn't carry it anywhere else. You don't go with jotters that you got in from a burial. Invest in a proper diary or something. Just the total package. Because it is what is perceived. It's what people see that they believe, right? So you have to give yourself that kind of packaging as well.
Okay.
Well, Elizabeth, I just want to wind down with you now. Obviously, it's too late for some of us to consider modeling. You laughed. No. I thought you were going to give us hope and say, no, you can still try it.
You can actually.
Thank you very much. That's the hope we need in 2025.
Executive modeling.
That's really nice, right?
Yeah, just give us free suits and free shoes and
like
ties.
A few $1,000 or $1 million.
We'll model for you. I'm just joking.
Let's wind down with this point. What the future looks like, particularly for you now, because they say that you can't get to the market through one route. So have you gotten to a point where you say, well, modeling is good, but for how long would I do this? So are you exploring other, I don't want to say streams of income, because that sounds like money is the goal, but it's sort of part of it, but maybe streams of fulfillment, maybe things you're able to do such that you're sustainable, you built a brand, are you able to bring people under you, and of course be, a blessing in that sense. Is that something you're also looking at?
Well, yeah, I do have other skills. I've learned photography, I've learned cinematography, I've learned data analysis, I've studied psychology. So yeah, I have other streams of income that I've considered. I do modeling part-time while I do other things that being real source.
What do you do full-time? Well, the other.
I was doing 9 to 5, but right now I'm doing data analysis. I'm done with the program, so now I plan to practice with it, which is very interesting, to be honest.
Okay, that's a good transition. Yeah. Elizabeth Okokon, stage name Ilox.
Yes.
Fashion model for hues and shades. Also...
data analyst.
Data analyst, we need to add that part. Yes, I needed to add that part. Abimbola Oyesonya, luxury woman, interior designer, design facilitator, creative director, 18th Interiors and 18 Mistletoe. Is that?
Yes, that's just at the festive period. We do Christmas.
Okay. And co-founder and lead facilitator at Globe Design School. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you for the work you do. We appreciate you, and we'll continue to celebrate you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more for you. Don't want to go anywhere. Stay with us.
So let's talk about literary work, writing. They always say that if you want to hide something from us, keep it in a book, right? But I'm glad to tell you that we're beginning to change that narrative. I think we've done a good work at changing that, but we still have quite a job to do in that sector. We're joined on the program this morning by Alison Cole-Chiori, and he will essentially be walking us through his journey as a literary artist. I don't know if that's something, but you're welcome to the Morning Brief, Alison.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good to have you. We started the year sort of with a lady, Isioma, who read 150 books. So she read 150 books last year. I don't know for you as a writer if that's yes, someone appreciates our work. Let's start with that, particularly the culture of reading and maybe writing in this part of the world.
I feel like it's getting to a point where I feel like people are going back to it, because I think Nigeria has a rich literary culture. So it's getting back to that point, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. I think we need to do more things in terms of like indie authors. So like, for instance, I'm in London, I could write a book and publish it on Amazon, and anyone can just go and order the book. I get paid by Amazon after it has been bought. I don't have any expenses beforehand. So 2 of my first books were self-published, and that kind of like helped me to like get in the light. And I had to pay for so many things from my own pockets. And now I'm signed to a literary agency.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, it's something that the government needs to try and look into it, see how they can support authors. Because there are loads of indie authors out there that need this support from the government, and even say private sector investment, things like that would go a long way.
And I know that there are platforms that are coming up in Nigeria doing some work, but it is like sometimes a drop in the ocean, because you have, imagine a nation of 200 million people. I mean, a percentage of that are writers, prospective writers. So we still need a lot of that structure which you talk about. And I think this is maybe some sort of wake-up call to people who are thinking about it. There's a big opportunity here for people like that. But this is a year a lot of people want to write, right? A lot of people, yes, they have their target, read 5 books in a month or what have you. But this is a year that a lot of people also want to write, share their experience, their stories, and the rest. So maybe you give us a toolkit for a writer. I know there's writer's block, definitely. Maybe that's like 60% of that. But what's the toolkit? What are the things you have to get sorted if you want to write and ensure you succeed at it?
If you want to write, I think you need to read a lot. You need to read things that interest you. Interesting. So in that way, you can write things that things that will come to you easily. Like for me, for instance, I could just be in the shower and I'll get inspiration. I'll have to run out of the shower, pick a pen, or get on my laptop, type on my notes. So you just have to be ready, anytime it comes to you.
Really? That's all? You make it sound so simple. So why do we have people who've been trying to write for like years now and they've not gone past chapter 1 and 2? But let's talk about your influences.
That's what I do. Like, it comes easy to me. So
great.
That's just what I do.
And that's fantastic. So let's talk about the influence, because I think there's so much culture, there's so much experience that we have, and it's still largely untapped. So what do we bring to the game? And I say that in the sense of trying to also showcase the fact that there's a lot of dynamism here, and there's a lot that the world should really look out for in this part of the world. So what are the flavors we bring to the game?
When you say we, is it me as a person or me as a Nigerian? I think we have a really rich culture.
Yeah.
We have a really rich culture. So for instance, me being in the diaspora, I can easily fuse my Nigerian culture with any experience I'm currently having out here. So for me, and I can borrow from different cultures. I can borrow, like my new book that I'm writing with a literary agency I signed with that's based in Budapest. I've tried to infuse Yoruba culture to it. I've tried to infuse Igbo culture, because I feel like that's one thing that you can't take away from a Nigerian. we have really rich culture. And if you can infuse that into your writing and make people see it in a good light, you can't go wrong with it. Can't go wrong with it. That's why we have so many outstanding authors from Nigeria.
All right, so let's come to a few things about writing. Let's talk about the impact of AI on writing, because these days, when there was no AI, people read books, people write. These days, even if you submit your thesis or your project, they subject it to plagiarism and the AI test and all of that. How has it impacted or helped writing for you?
I think it can be used positively, but it has negative effects now. For instance, like everyone is an author these days, and sometimes you just see like low quality stuff being put out. People just release anything and say, yeah, I'm an author, because you can just put in prompts, AI would help you. But in terms of like fleshing out an idea, say you want to write a book, okay, this is the plot. You can use AI to like, okay, say, give it like direction, and then you do the writing. But I don't think anyone should be using AI to write a full book. That's just diabolical.
You talked about quality of work. How do you assess a great work? And what do you call quality?
That's subjective. That's subjective.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question. In your books.
In my books, I try to just be authentic. I infuse philosophy with, love. I talk about like topics that I feel like I've experienced. And another thing I do, so for my master's for my degree was English literature. For my master's, it was film, novel to film adaptation. So what I've been trying to do recently with my writing is I'm trying to do it the other way around. I'm trying to bring film to book. So my imagery, that's one thing I've been complimented on. My imagery is really good, and I'm confident about my imagery. So when I write, I try and make it interesting. I try and use simple language, but I try to still make the imagery rich. So that's one of the key things I do. That's what brings quality to my work. If you're reading my book, the aesthetics of it, like, for instance, let me show you. My pages are like black and, purple. There's loads of stuff, like, just to get people interested. And, as much as I'm working on the aesthetics, I'm also working on the content as well. So everything is just pure. Like,
it's interesting. I don't know what. I don't know what I've heard from screen to books. I hear from books to screen. So how do you do that?
So what I do is, so when I was doing creative, I think my lecturer in uni kind of like started it. So when I was doing creative writing, one of the creative writing courses when I was at the University of Buckingham, one of my lecturers, she told me, Alison, I think your writing is more like suited to film. You should lean towards like writing for film. But I do that now anyway. I do that for work outside of my personal writing. But what I've been able to do is, keep that same level of imagery, but make it prose. And for me, I think it's amazing, and I get loads of feedback from it. The way I describe stuff, the way I make you feel like you're really in the book, you're really watching it. As you're reading it, it's like you're envisioning every part of the book.
It just reminds me of Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, where we had to live in that zone where he created. So African influences for you. So two in one question. Do you have African writers that have influenced you? And are there African writers right now that you respect, and you like to? I don't know when it comes to books. For movies, you always ask questions like, who do you like to collaborate with? But I don't think that works with authors.
Because I write poetry sometimes, I can easily collaborate with other poets. I've collaborated with poets from Caribbean, St. Lucia. I've collaborated with poets from here, from England. And in terms of African writers, I really enjoy Chimamanda. I enjoy her stuff. I've read all of Professor Wole Soyinka's works. But my favorite writer, my favorite book from an African is Baba Shegi and his Owashegi's wife by Lola Shoneyin.
Yeah. Interesting. I think it's really unfair, the kind of skill set you pack for a writer, because you're also into fashion, I understand.
I'm wearing my design.
There you go. So it's, as I said, it's really unfair because you expect to just write those books and, sign autographs, but you are doing designs, you're writing for movies. It's not right, but I think it just talks about versatility, how you don't need to box yourself. A lot of people just think, I am one thing and that's what I should be, forgetting that you can bring influences from your different skill set and bring it in. But I understand that you have a very interesting background as well. Born in Adamawa State, am I correct?
Yes. I was born in the north because my dad was working as a missionary. So we used to travel around the north, Adamawa, Jos, Kaduna, Kano. He had churches. He was working with Assemblies of God at the time, so he was moving around. So I move around a lot. I even lived in Benin at some point.
Interesting. So I think some of these influences are responsible for your creativity as well.
100%.
So,
100%.
On a final note, you maybe have not stayed. I think you've stayed outside Nigeria longer than you've stayed in Nigeria. Am I correct?
I've been outside. No, actually, I've been outside Nigeria for like 9 years now.
Okay, so you've been more in Nigeria than you've been outside Nigeria.
Yes.
So what is that thing you always try to show people about Nigeria that they seem not to get? I know we can talk about the challenges we face in Nigeria, but some will tell you that the challenge is not Nigeria. Maybe it's about a system or a set of people or a certain government, but not Nigeria. So you have to separate maybe Nigeria from those challenges. So what is it that you try to preach about Nigeria to the world that you just wish that the world would understand and value about this country?
2 words: positivity and resilience. Even though the positivity is like up to the point, when you do too much of everything, it becomes a problem. It's up to the point where it's like problem, but it's a good thing regardless. The positivity, Nigerians are such positive people. We take situations and sad situations and we're laughing about it. That's a good thing, but then it has a bad side. Then resilience. You can't keep a Nigerian down. That's just one thing you can't keep. You can't keep a Nigerian down. Right. We're always striving to be better, just striving for more. And I think that's a plus, because if you meet loads of non-Nigerians, you see the difference.
Yeah. That's beautiful, and we can actually feel that energy from you. We have to thank you so much for the great work
thank you so much
doing, for breaking barriers, just doing you. We've been speaking with Alison Cole-Chiori. Look forward to your journey in 2025 and beyond. Thank you.
Bye.
Well, we'll take a moment now, and when we return, we're knocking on a few doors. Well, if you count, maybe 7 doors and more. We're speaking with a very creative individual who's responsible for some of the designs you've seen in big works. That's in a moment. Just stay with us.
Tunji Afolayan joins us. He's a production designer. He joins us right here in our Lagos studios. Tunji Afolayan, let me say that name again.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. Production design, that's a part of this whole, what I call energizing the messaging of storytelling that a lot of people don't really pay attention to. But that is like the cornerstone, as it may, because you could be a great actor, you could be a great director, but the guys who posit that whatever it is you're trying to tell in time are quite critical for expression. I was telling my colleague, just imagine doing a movie and you're wearing an Apple Watch in 1944. That's a total disaster.
Wow.
So tell me, how important is your work?
Okay, production design is one of the most integral part of filmmaking. Thank God these days people are getting to understand the secret behind those classics you see is production design. Because what's production design? Is the the entirety of the mise en scene in the film, the look and feel, the entire look and feel of the film is production design. Is what happens to the audience, and they feel part of the story. You get what I'm saying? And production design is taking care of the foreground, the object, subject, and the depth of field. And you know what it means? That is the entirety.
Let me write that down, because it looks like we're in class right now.
That is
like a lecture.
Absolutely.
So if you take cognizance of those things and you deal with them very well, then you have a good film.
Interesting. You talk film, so let's just run through an abridged version of the films you have worked on. Maybe starting from the latest, then we'll walk back, because I mentioned 7 Doors.
Yeah.
And of course, you've done more than that. So walk us through abridged version. Don't give us the full list. Give us a shorter list, because I know if we go on now, we might not end this show. So give us an abridged. What are some of the big films you've worked on?
Yeah, I will just mention a few that I can remember in recent time. Even in cinema right now, I have a few of my projects showing. Alakadabad and Budget is production design. Ashiriade is showing on Circuit TV. We have quite a lot. I worked on King of Boys too. I worked on Lotana. I worked on I think the one that gave me awards, AMVCA, Amina. I worked on Amina by Izu Ojukwu, Lotana, Buka, Battle on Buka Street.
You mentioned Jagu Jagu as well.
Jagu Jagu.
Yeah.
A whole lot. Sometimes I lose count. but a whole lot.
So, interesting point now. Jeffrey introduced you as Tunji Afolayan. Yes. Now, the elephant in the room usually is, we know Afolayan. Are you related to the Afolayans? But I know that there was a controversy about a certain work that was done. You didn't quite get the credit. I think it was Ijogbo.
Yeah.
So I think that was when people started noticing that no, they are not related. So first, are you related to the Afolayan family, and what exactly happened then?
So we are related as colleagues, but not biologically.
Not by blood.
Yeah. So we have families in the industry, but we are from different parents. So I am Tunji Afolayan of Telegenic Design.
So what exactly? Why you had to give an ultimatum through your lawyers for that movie? Said you didn't get the credit you were meant to get. Is that something that happens, and has that been resolved?
Yeah, I think I don't want to talk about that right here, because there are things I should not talk about, like on TV, because of what is involved. So I think I would like to jump on that so that we can move to something else for reasons that you understand very well, because it's at a stage that I shouldn't talk about.
Okay, maybe it's subject of adjudication. I wouldn't know. You guys are negotiating how much to pay for whatever. You will not bring us into all of that. But I watched 7 Doors, and I want to go to how do you create a scary space, an aura within this? Because when the king in the life of Ilara, when he was about to be crowned king, he had to go into those rooms to the right and to the left. And sometimes you go to these places. I think I've heard of a particular actor who, when the actor saw what was around him or her, literally fainted in cinema. So when they give you the script, say, this is what we want to create. I can see the work done and all of that. Tell us the process, the thought process that helps you to create that, interacting with light.
Okay, so the process is always the same. As a production designer, the process is, like I always say, as a production designer, you are playing the role of God in filmmaking. Like you are the one that is creating everything that is written in text. So there is a guy in the corner of his room who has written a whole lot of stuff for you to turn to flesh. So now you are sitting in the position of God Almighty to say, this how this looks. So we're using 7 Doors as a bone of contention, and we say, I had a script of 7 Doors, and when I read to the point of the baby, I called Femi Adebayo. I was like, wow, I'm liking this.
I love this.
Yes, I loved it, because so Ikpebi, in the depth of it, almost nobody have been there. It's only the kings. And they go there, they don't talk about it when they get back. So we have to put it in the mind of people, create it very well, and make it look like what we want it to be. So now you feel this is what it maybe is. If it's like that, and if it's not, is up to you. But the most important thing for me is to create illusion that people will believe so much in it. And developing it is the work of production designer. So I developed what it is and I presented it to them and say, this is what the look and this is how I want it to look like. This is what and what. It got to a point that I felt so particular about the birds, the bat that came after you opened the door. So all those things are creations that makes it look like it's a place people don't go often. And if you have a place that people don't go often, birds will invest in it. And once you open the door, somewhere that have not been opened in like 10 years. So there are some details that you find in 7 doors that goes beyond just saying a story. So my creation is usually the same. Like you said, one actor almost jumped out of cinema. It happened in this one because we built this maybe in a church.
In a church?
Yes. And someone said, maybe prayer will not be answered in this church anymore. But now they are still worshiping in the church and it's fine.
I don't understand. The church gave you the facility to build.
It's a church. And I don't want to mention the name of the church.
You built it in the compound.
I built it
so let's put it
church.
Let's put a context for them. Something close to a shrine in a church.
Yes.
Okay, for the movie, you created a shrine in a real church.
Yes. So if you go by that, then we'll be going to another topic because it's God Almighty. And that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're talking about. So if you go to the account of Christians or Islam or whatever in believing in God, we'll be missing it. This is African tradition and it's still about God. It's still about our belief. So convincing people to understand that we are not doing anything negative. We're not doing anything to negate what Jesus must have brought to the world. This is just our tradition. This is how we lived. Africans has lived in a way before the West came. And we had street lights, we had all these things. So when we're creating this thing in our film, and you create lamps to create street lights, and you ask yourself, was Africa designed before the white came? Yes.
I must give you credit, and you as well as other filmmakers. I think they are one of the biggest custodians of our culture now.
Exactly.
And we take it for granted. In fact, you people should be protected. You're a national treasure. No, I'm serious. For example, the Pepe you talked about, I think that was the first time a lot of people really had an insight into what kings go through. Before,
and you can't even talk about it.
You can't talk about it. And it was a beautiful sight. So when people heard the Oni of Ife went through a few days now, they now began to understand maybe this is the process. So when I say you're custodians of our culture, thank you very much. And you speak to religion, religious tolerance, collaboration. And I think that's beautiful. But what goes through? How long did it take to build the set? What kind of manpower? Because I see a lot of people working. I've been able to count a few people. So how long? And then the manpower and the cost.
How much did you charge? I think that's the question.
What's the budget like?
Okay, it takes a community to make a film, and it takes a whole village to build a village. So production design, look and see, it's kind of what we're doing. Like we went all the way. Then you need to remember that whatever project you're working on has to do with the kind of materials that you need. So we were building a Lara kingdom that was like 100 years before the one we built. So we're juggling between two periods.
Yeah, two timelines.
Yeah. There's an 100 year ago, and there's this in 70s. So the 70s one was, maybe I've done a whole lot with 70s because I was born in late 70s, and it was easy for me because I saw all these things growing. But the one before then, the 100 years before then, was things that researched, and you think about those things you've seen and you create it. So working with a whole lot of team members is
20, 30, 50, 100.
On this was
50 million.
50 people.
Okay.
Budget.
The budget?
The budget for production design on this one was almost 100 million.
Okay. Just for production design?
Yeah.
All right. And I think that's even fair, I must say.
Almost.
That's quite cheap.
We need a... Anyway, Tunji Afolayan, production designer, responsible for some of the most epic scenes we've seen in movies and set. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Whew. Oh boy, so that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. It's the 6th of January. Get the week started. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to keep creating great stuff. You can be the God in your corner. So in your office, create a good atmosphere, create a good personality. Have a great day ahead. I'm Kayode Okikilo, and don't forget, Sunrise Daily is right now. Goodbye.